Hello everyone, I'm back with another art journal tutorial video, and I'm going to be doing the second page next to my one-page layouts. And the very first thing I'm going to start out with is just a couple pieces of cardstock. I chose a pattern that's simple, but that does have a few little interesting places on the page. And I'm going to be using gelatos. These are Faber-Castell gelatos, and I'm going to be using a water brush. This is just a brush that has an opening in the stem of it where you can fill it with water. And they're really cheap. You can find these water brushes at the craft store for a couple dollars. So choose some colors of your Faber-Castell gelatos. And I just chose just a variety of colors. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to cut my cardstock into squares. I want varying sizes because I'm going to be gluing these on the page. So I'm just going to cut some smaller, some larger. They don't have to be super small. You want them to be small enough that you can have a variety of colors, but not so tiny that you're spending a whole lot of time gluing them down. And then this technique is really simple, and I absolutely love gelatos. They're so versatile. If you've never used them before, I recommend picking up a few and giving them a try. And you can get a set like I have that has a wide variety of colors. They're great for all sorts of different projects. So all I'm doing is I'm squeezing some water onto the bristles, and then I'm just painting over to smear the gelato color all over the page. And you can see it almost behaves like watercolor when you use this method. You can keep, if you were using them on a larger piece of paper, you can keep moving the color around, and it can get more opaque and more opaque the more you move it around. But I want them to be fairly dark, and they actually dry a little bit lighter than what this looks. And so I'm just squeezing some water and then running my brush over a paper towel to clean it out when I move from color to color. And I'm just going to repeat the process. Once you have all of the squares colored and you've let them completely dry, I am going to be going in with some Liquitex matte gel, and I'm going to be sticking the squares down with that matte gel. This stuff is wonderful. It's sort of like a glue, and it's, again, like as the name sounds, I mean, it is like a gel more than like a runny glue, but it's wonderful for sticking things down. It's great for painting over things to make them non-porous, which you will see after I get the squares stuck down. I'm going to go over the squares and completely cover them with this matte gel, and that's going to make them completely non-porous so that I can do things on top of them, and I can smudge and shade and blend. And you just want to randomly put these squares down. I tried not to put the same colors too closely together, but you could certainly do whatever you want. Use whatever colors that you want on your page. And you can see the different sizes make it really interesting. I try to just slightly overlap them. I don't want them to be completely overlapping. I want each color to be pretty well represented on the page. And now that I have all the squares glued down, I'm just going over the entire layout with the matte gel to make sure it's completely sealed. And then you can hit it with a heat gun or let it dry overnight. You want to make sure that it is completely dry before you move on to the next step. And then from here I'm just cutting out any excess paper that's hanging over the edge. So just trim up your edges once it's completely dry. And now I'm going in with some Faber-Castell markers, and what I want to do, I tried to find markers that were similar or that matched the color, because all I'm doing is adding some shading around the edges. So as you can see, I'm just outlining the edge and then I'm smearing it to blend it with my finger. And I didn't have a light pink, so I'm just going over the pink tone with the red. And you'll see later on I actually don't have a purple color, so I'm going over the purple with the blue. And I think it actually ended up making it look really interesting. If you mess up, because you covered it with the matte gel, the nice thing is you can go in with a baby wipe and clean up your lines. Because there's different colors right next to each other, it's kind of easy when you're smearing it to get it onto the other colors. So if you don't like the way that that looks, just go in with a baby wipe and you can clean it up a little bit, and you'll see I start doing that because the yellow easily takes on the color beside it because it's a little bit lighter. But it was kind of neat because I was going over with the blue, and whenever the blue would touch the yellow, it turned a really pretty green color, and I was almost tempted to leave it, but I did clean it up a little bit. This part of the page is the most important in my opinion. The shading and the blending that I'm doing here, I mean the page was pretty before I did this, but this really made the colors pop and stand out. And so I think this was like the most important step of the layout because it really made the page look interesting and it really made your eye wander around the page to the different colors. And I love the way that it turned out. You can see like my green isn't the perfect shade of green, and I don't have a purple, so here I am going over the purple with my blue. But it doesn't hurt, like if you don't have the exact color, just use a color that you think will complement it. And I actually didn't really like the purple squares that much before I did the shading, but after I put the blue on, I think it really made them pop and look really nice. So I'm just going to go in and clean those up a little bit. And then now I'm ready to stamp my saying. I'm using a Stampability set, and then I'm also using Dilutions by Ranger. I'm using black StazOn ink. It's actually called Jet Black. And then I'm going to stamp my saying onto the page. And the Dilutions stamp set actually has a really fine pattern in it. And I'm not crazy about the way the stamp looks. So I like to go in and touch up the edges, especially because on this page the colors were so bright that the StazOn ink was not really popping off the page. Like you could hardly read the saying when I first did it. So I'm just going in and touching up any areas that I'm not happy with. And I do that with almost all my layouts, so that's not unusual. I just prefer to have the stamp look the way I want it to look. And I'm going in with a white jelly roll pen and I'm just adding highlights to the letters. And then for a final touch, I'm going in with some Liquitex modeling paste. And I'm using the Tim Holtz stencil in its burlap. And I like the way that it looked broken and it matched the saying, broken crayons still color. And so I'm just going in with the modeling paste through the stencil, and adding some little interesting pieces. And there's the layout. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know these have been 2 simple tutorials, one right after the other, but I wanted to really show that you don't have to have a lot of fancy tools to create something beautiful. Thanks guys, I'll see you next time.